I found my brother's phone buried behind the shed, 10 days after he vanished. It was dead, muddy, and wrapped in a plastic bag. No one in the family believed me when I said he wouldn't have just disappeared. They thought he was using again. But when I charged the phone in secret, what I found in his photos made me sit down and vomit. There was a picture, blurry but clear enough, of him standing in front of a cabin deep in the woods. Next to him stood someone I knew, someone I trusted, someone who told me they hadn't seen him in weeks. That was the moment I realized. My brother hadn't run away. He had been taken, and I might be next. I'm 27 now, but this happened when I was 24. My name's Casey, and I grew up in northern Idaho. Forested, quiet, not much around, but small towns and empty roads. My older brother, Daniel, was 3 years ahead of me and my best friend for most of my life. Daniel had always been the wild one. He got into drugs young, dropped out of school, ran away more than once. But after a near-death overdose at 20, he got clean. Genuinely clean. He stayed in recovery, went to meetings, even helped other addicts. Our parents had long stopped believing in his change, but I saw it. He'd been sober for nearly 3 years when he vanished. He was renting a room in a shared house on the edge of town, worked at a garage, lived simply. The last time I saw him, he hugged me hard and said, "I've got something to show you soon. You're not going to believe it." He disappeared 3 days later. At first, everyone assumed it was drugs. Our parents, his old friends, even the sheriff, they all thought it was just another bender. But I knew something was wrong. His truck was still parked outside the house. His wallet was in his room. His dog, Bella, had been left in the backyard, hungry and whining. Daniel would never leave Bella behind. I started digging, and that's when everything began to unravel. The police weren't interested. To them, it was an open and shut case. Adult man with history of addiction disappears? Not their problem. So I started my own investigation. I retraced his last steps, visited the gas station he always went to, talked to the guy at the garage. Nothing. No one had seen him after Thursday afternoon. But when I went to his room again, just a gut instinct, I noticed something odd behind the shed in the backyard. The ground was disturbed. I started digging and found a small box wrapped in a plastic bag. Inside was his old Android phone. It was dead and cracked, but I took it home and charged it. Most of the photos were old. Random shots of his dog, of sunsets, of greasy hands at work. But in a folder labeled July, there were 6 photos from just a few days before he vanished. They showed Daniel in a clearing in the woods, a small log cabin in the background. It didn't look like much, almost abandoned. But in the third photo, he was standing with someone. I zoomed in. The man had his arm around Daniel's shoulder, grinning at the camera. Beard, flannel jacket, messy hair. I recognized him instantly. It was Andrew, Daniel's old sponsor. A guy who'd practically lived at our house for a year during Daniel's recovery. My ex-boyfriend. He had broken up with me the year before, said he was leaving town. The place looked abandoned, rotting roof, broken windows, moss-covered walls. But there were signs of recent activity. Tire tracks, a fresh lock on the door, and smoke from a chimney. I hid in the trees and waited. Around noon, a truck pulled up. An old red Dodge I'd seen 100 times before. Andrew got out. He looked different. Thinner, greasier. Something about his posture made my stomach turn. He unlocked the cabin and went inside. I waited. Then, against every instinct, I moved closer and crept around the side. One window was boarded up, but the other was cracked enough to peek through. I saw Daniel. He was sitting in a chair, not tied up, just sitting, staring at nothing. He looked pale, thinner, like he hadn't eaten properly in weeks. Andrew walked over to him and crouched down. He said something I couldn't hear. Daniel nodded slowly. Then Andrew pulled something from his pocket, a syringe. I couldn't watch anymore. I snapped a photo with my phone and backed away as quietly as I could. I didn't call the police. I didn't know if I should. They already didn't believe me. So I went to someone else, Trish, a woman from Daniel's old recovery group. She worked as a nurse, and she hated Andrew. Said he was dangerous, manipulative. I showed her the photos. She believed me instantly. We went back together that night with her boyfriend. Ex-military, built like a tank. We didn't have a plan, just desperation. The cabin was quiet when we arrived, but the door was unlocked. Inside, Daniel was on the floor, breathing barely. empty syringe beside him. Andrew was gone. We got Daniel out, drove him straight to the ER. I lied and said I found him collapsed on the side of the road. He was unconscious for 2 days. When he woke up, he told me the truth. Andrew had lured him out there, promised him peace, a break from the noise. Then he started dosing him. Small amounts at first, saying it would help him reset. By the time Daniel realized what was happening, he couldn't leave. He said Andrew didn't hurt him physically, but he'd been drugged so much he couldn't think clearly. He remembered me at the window, said seeing me snapped something back into place. We tried to press charges, but it was complicated. Daniel didn't want to go public. He felt ashamed, said it would ruin what was left of his sobriety reputation, said no one would believe him. Andrew vanished. His truck was found abandoned weeks later in Spokane, but no sign of him. The sheriff still treated it like a drug relapse gone wrong. Daniel moved in with me, started therapy, fought like hell to stay clean. But something inside him had changed. He didn't smile as much. He barely left the house. Sometimes he'd wake up screaming. Other times, I'd find him just staring at the wall, silent for hours. I quit my job to be there for him. Our parents still didn't fully understand. To them, it was just another overdose. But I knew better. I knew my brother had been hunted by someone he trusted, manipulated, controlled. And Andrew? He was still out there. 3 months later, I got a letter. No return address, no name. Inside was a photo of me, taken from outside my apartment window. I stared at it for a long time. On the back, a message written in red ink. You saved him, but you owe me one. I didn't tell Daniel. I didn't call the cops. Instead, I moved, changed numbers, got security cameras. But every so often, I feel like I'm being watched, like there's someone just out of sight, waiting. I thought the nightmare ended when we pulled Daniel out of that cabin, but it didn't. It just shifted. It's been almost 3 years now. Daniel's doing better, still sober. He's back at work part-time, got a dog again, named her Hope. We talk every day. I haven't heard from Andrew since that letter. No sightings, no updates, nothing. Some nights I wonder if he's dead. Other nights I pray he is. I still have the photo. I keep it in a locked box with Daniel's old phone, the one that started everything. People think monsters look like shadows in the dark, but I know better now. Monsters look like someone you once loved, someone who hugged your brother, sat at your dinner table, someone who disappears just long enough to remind you they're not gone. And sometimes, that's the scariest thing of all.